guys, and welcome to our next art tutorial. Today we're going to be working with some very interesting items to do kind of a stamp project. And yeah, I'm a little excited about this. So what we're going to be working with today is an apple. We're going to be working with bits of onion, including the roots, because it has a very interesting design, a few other pieces of onion, and I'm probably, depending on how the ink does today, possibly one of these, which is kind of like a grassy little flower thing that I have outside. And so what we're going to be basically learning is the idea behind printmaking, the most basic of them all, which is stamps. And most people, when they hear stamps, they think of the fabricated ones that are already having carved designs in it. But I want to go even further to the point of where you can take things that you normally wouldn't use to make some very interesting designs, such as onions, apples, and other things. So to get us started, I'm going to bring the camera down so I can show you some of the things that we're going to be working with. I'm also wearing gloves for several reasons: ink, and well, the food items. So give me just a sec. All right, so what I have here is our printmaking ink, or our block ink. And what I went ahead and did is I already put a scoop of the ink here, and I used my roller on this plexiglass to start kind of rolling out the ink and getting it warmed up, because we're going to be using this to make the ink and things on here, and then we're going to do an impression on my book in just a second. So what I want to start out actually with first is truthfully the apple, because I just sliced it so it shouldn't be too wet. And I usually like the Granny Smith ones because they're not super juicy, and so it's not too worrisome about using these things. So once I've rolled out the ink on here, you want to get a decent coat on the roller, and you're going to take either your stamp or your apple, and you're going to roll your ink on it. Again, gloves. Right. Okay, looks good. So we got most of our apple covered on here. And so now what I'm going to do is bring my book over here. There we go. And so now what I'm going to do is take my stamp or my apple, and I'm just going to place it on a spot. I'm going to pressly firm on this one. Pressly firm. Firmly press. I knew what I meant. I'm going to now remove the apple. And there we go. We have a design. So even though we have ink all over this apple, you notice on some bits, it doesn't matter how much I push, you're going to have areas that are looking like this, which honestly make it really unique and interesting. So let's say I want to do it again. I'm going to take my roller, I'm going to take this, put more ink on my object, try to see a few other areas I didn't get too much. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to place it, press, grab, and pull off. So this time I put more ink on it, so areas that were a little bit more white the first time actually were more filled in this time. And what kind of looks cool is that I didn't realize until I did this, it kind of looks like a human brain. If you've ever seen those type of scans of people's brains with all the fun colors, this looks very similar to it, so that's pretty cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my onion with the little roots on here, because it has some really cool roots on here. I'm curious, when I put ink on it, what is going to happen. Again, you really want to use gloves for this. That way you don't get anything stained on you later. Okay, got some ink on there. And take my lovely little stamp here and press. What's nice about something like this is that you can roll it around and you get something like that. Huh. Yeah, I'll put it a little directly on here. Just get some more ink. If I just want to press, I can get a blob, but if I roll it around, I get some interesting stuff. Okay, worth trying. Let's see, let's take some of these onion rings I have. What I like about the onions is that because it has these rings, I'm very curious, similar to the apple, what's going to show up, because it has so many layers to it. All right, I'm gonna take my ink, put ink on here. Okay. And now that I have the ink on here, I'm gonna find it, press it. Oh, That actually came out interesting. I'm gonna do that again. Press, lift. Oh. So let me do this. I'm going to lift this up a little bit so you can see it, but let's see if I can get the camera a little bit closer. So what's happening is that when I make a stamp, and instead of re-inking it, I pressed it again, you're starting to get these subtle rings that are showing up on the onion on here. Personally, I prefer to use celery, but I forgot to go to the store and get celery this morning. So most likely in class, we'll probably be using celery because they're easier to hold than an onion. But if you're still interested in using the onion, I'm not going to say no personally. So what I'd like to try next is one of these. And this I'm going to do a little bit differently just because usually what I do is I roll the roller across the ink, I get it on the item, and then I press it. But because this item is very unique and different, I'm going to take the roller and just gently roll it across. There we go. So now we have all that ink on of this. And now I'm just going to press gently. I can move a little bit of it, press it again, and just lift. Wow, that actually came out really nice. So I'm going to take off my gloves for a sec. And don't worry, I've got plenty of gloves if I need to. So I can have this a little bit closer to the camera so you can see what is going on. So I know this is upside down, but it looks kind of cool. So we have our 2 impressions of the apple when it had a little less ink and when we put more ink. And as it's starting to dry, you're starting to get these subtle grayscale in here. So you can actually see all the differences in between it. I'm going to turn this book around so you can see the onion part a little bit better. So the first time I put this on the ring of onions, pressed it down, we didn't get much of an impression, but as it's drying, you're going to start noticing the differences between it. When I pressed it again without re-inking it, just using the remaining ink on it, we're starting to get these subtle little hints of the lines and rings on them. And lastly, on our lovely little flower weed, whatever, I lightly rolled it onto the ink, pressed it down with my gloves, and I shifted it and I pressed it again. So now you're starting to get these nice little hints of a plant. So obviously whenever you're in class, we're going to have a little bit more items to work with. So it won't be strictly the items that I have right now. Probably the apple, maybe the onion, definitely probably celery. But it's really fun because when you do stuff like this, you can also do it with leaves. So since it's winter, I'm not going to be using leaves because, well, it's winter. Most likely what I'll probably do is go home and get some of those little pine clippings that I have outside my front yard, and we can use those. But again, I'm going to say definitely use gloves, not just because the ink is messy, but also because, well, it's food items, and if you're going to use pine needles, you don't want it pricking your hand too much. Not fun. But I do look forward to this, and I'm going to see if I can find inks other than black, but I have a feeling just to kind of start us off, we're going to probably use black just to see those nice subtle differences when we use these items. So, but other than that, I do look forward to doing this in class and seeing y'all in person again. And if you have any questions or concerns, please always message me on Schoology or email me, whatever it is that you need to do. But other than that, I look forward to seeing y'all next time. All right, bye-bye.